Israel has the right to defend itself. This has been the common saying, the tiresome trope that we've been hearing for the past few months since October 7th, which has allowed Israel to do many things, including committing genocide, including breaking international rules and norms, including creating hatred towards the Israeli state and the Israeli government, ever more so, and at its perhaps crescendo since the Israeli state was founded in the 1940s. Of course, it's been a few days since Iran has launched missiles and drones against Israel, and of course weeks since the catalyst for that. It all started when Israel bombed an Iranian embassy consulate in Syria, Damascus, and under international rules and norms, a embassy or a consulate is the sovereign territory of that specific country. So in layman's terms, Israel bombed a sovereign part of the Iranian government, of the Iranian state, and something which has been, I hate the word, but unprecedented. It's because everything unprecedented now is becoming the norm. This is something which hasn't really been seen, perhaps since, some say, the Yugoslavian war or the NATO bombing of Serbia, where the NATO forces bombed a Chinese embassy. And of course, in the bombing by the Israeli state, not only was Iranian sovereignty transgressed upon, obviously breaking international rules and norms, but some soldiers and some workers were of course killed in the blast. Any nation who would experience something like this would of course respond. They would perhaps attack, proportionally perhaps.
What about Iran's frustration at part of its sovereign territory being flattened?
Well, I would argue there is a massive degree of difference between what Israel did in Damascus and, as I said, 301 weapons being launched by the state of Iran at the state of Israel.
What would Britain do if a hostile nation flattened one of our consulates?
Well, we would take the very strong action.
And you would expect different nations around the world denouncing this and calling this act perhaps barbaric, perhaps evil, perhaps, going against the peace of the world stability, etc. But we didn't really hear anything from the Western powers, the so-called moral superiority nations that take pride in their values and principles. We didn't hear anything from them. They take pride in, the rules-based order, but the rules and the order is based on their preference and their whims and what works for them. It really comes down to power, but that's of course a different topic. So Iran's response included several hundred missiles, drones launched from mainland Iran attacking Israel, and it resulted in, the Israeli regime, they say 99% were shot down. We refuse to believe that these are the same people who talk about raped women, burnt babies, talking about how they're the most moral army in the world. We can see their lies after lies after lies. I don't have to talk about them. We've all seen it over the past 6 months. So they say 99%, but it's fair to say that perhaps the majority of the missiles and drones were shot down, and casualties were limited to zero. There are no casualties that have been mentioned from the Israeli military. So the casualties essentially were limited. But for the first time in a while, in my lifetime, have we seen something like this? Have we seen the illusions of this Israeli state being strong and firm? The same Israeli state who are struggling to defeat guys in sandals or a militia in the north with the most sophisticated military backed by the superpowers and the Western nations. They're unable to do so, and that illusion has been broken. But of course, as I mentioned, the attack wasn't damage control. You could say it was theatre to an extent. The Iranian government consulted and informed nations like Turkey that they would launch missiles, giving Israel and its allies ample time for preparation. We saw 4 or 5 nations defend Israel, including Jordan, and of course the US, France, and the UK. Now, perhaps you could say the time of Israel to act is perhaps done, because even the US are telling Israel to stand down and to not go ahead and escalate this further, because if Israel goes ahead, the US have said through a call between Biden and Netanyahu that they wouldn't participate in any retaliatory strikes against the Iranian government, the Iranian state. And essentially what I'm trying to say is it's not sustainable for Israel to continue how it's been continuing. Financially, you could say it's difficult. The Iranian attack maybe costed millions. The Israeli defense costed billions when you're looking at the cost of the Iranian drones and missiles versus the Israeli defense system. Iran, according to them and according to a lot of political commentators, acted according to international norms. They invoked Article 51, their right to defend themselves. Something which, of course, Israel is losing when it comes to international support. Iran is being seen as the adult in the room and the one who is perhaps playing chess whilst these Israeli tyrants are playing whatever game they're playing, but it's not anything sophisticated in my assessment. Additionally, we've also seen that the weapons that Iran have used aren't even their strongest weapons. They've sent a signal to the Israeli government telling them what is possible and that they are ready and that they can continue. I'm not shilling for Iran. I'm not shilling for any party. I'm just looking at this, and we're looking at this, and we can see what's happening. And what we are seeing is that the power balance is shifting, and the Israeli regime, their time is ticking. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May peace and blessings and mercy be upon you all.